She's like a sickness in my brain, a vision standing by the window pane. She ripples through the blinds and leaves me in a daze. It's in the way her body moves me, the way she grabs me and intoxicates, until the signals in my mind forget to operate. Fragile skull. I take my pleasure from my alcohol. She'll never give you any time at all. She just comes and goes, you know, and she's got me living in a chemical love, and I try to find the strength to know when she comes back to me again.
I believe that the video was all the probable cause you needed to arrest these murderous father and son duo.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for another Coffee and Crime Time. Today we're talking about a case that recently in the past week or so has blown up. Even though it happened several months ago, we really just started hearing about it in the media now. And in my opinion, that's because now there is controversy, there's drama, and the media cycle loves their controversy and drama. But before then, it was just a case, a story about a young black man who was shot to death in the middle of a public road by two white men. And really, in the end, that is still what it's about. It's really not about the drama, the controversy, the lies, the videotape. It's about this young man who is now gone, who's no longer on this earth. This man's name was Ahmaud Arbery, and today, as I'm recording this, Friday, May 8th, it would have been his 26th birthday, and he's not here to celebrate it. And why? That's the real question that we're going to look at today. Before we get started, I do want to have a word from our sponsor, and our sponsor for this video is Function of Beauty. Thank you so much to Function of Beauty for not only sponsoring these videos, but introducing me to their amazing hair products. My hair's never looked better. I'm so happy to have found them. It's true, we're stuck in quarantine, we're not going anywhere, but we still have been finding ourselves on camera a lot more, and not just YouTubers. People in general. You're going on Zoom meetings for work. You're going on FaceTime to talk to your friends that you can't see, family that you can't see. And you still want to look your best. Function of Beauty delivers amazing hair products right to your front door. You don't have to leave the safety and comfort of your house in order to enjoy the benefits of Function of Beauty. Function of Beauty offers shampoo, conditioner, leave-in conditioners, hair masks, the works. And I've tried every single one of them and have been happy with every single one of them. And they make it easy to personalize your hair care products to your type of hair. Not every shampoo and conditioner is going to work for every single person. Your hair is different than every other person out there. So why should you be using a formula that's designed for a mass audience when you can use a formula that you created yourself based on what you need and what you want? All you have to do is go on the Function of Beauty website and fill out a 2-minute quiz outlining your hair type, hair goals, and personalized preferences. You can also choose your color and fragrance, and you get to name your shampoo and conditioner, and it's printed on the bottle, which I think is so cute. So here's my latest Function of Beauty order. I got shampoo, conditioner, and then I also have a leave-in conditioner. These are so good. And this time I picked the scent Peach, and I will never order another scent from Function of Beauty again. I mean, I've tried pear, I've tried, I think eucalyptus mint. They were great, but the smell of peach is unparalleled. It smells so good. Even Bella, every time I use this in my hair, she always gives me a hug and she's like, that smells so good. I have very curly, frizzy, dry hair, and as you can see, I use a lot more conditioner than I use shampoo. I use just the tiniest little bit of shampoo, and then I just slather the conditioner on. And in the past, I've named my products Function of Stephanie, Function of Harlequin, and this time I just decided to go simple and do Function of Harlowe. These products are created with no parabens, no sulfates, no GMOs or toxins, and they are 100% vegan and cruelty-free. Now, these are completely customizable, so some people are really sensitive to scents and dyes and things in hair care. So these products can be made with no scent and no dyes, and they still work as beautifully as they would if they, were all colorful and smelled pretty. Function of Beauty also offers a subscription service where you can get ongoing deliveries of your favorite personalized formulas on the delivery schedule of your choice every 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months. It's one less thing to have to think about. You can cancel at any time or change your formula by switching up the goals and scents as often as you want. I've been using Function of Beauty hair products since October of last year, and my hair has just never looked better. It's soft, it's shiny, it's silky. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's grown an incredible amount in the past 6 months or so because it's just so much healthier. Every time I choose my formula, I choose color protection and something to take down the frizz, smoothing, and moisturization. Those are the things that are important for somebody like me with my kind of hair type. Last time I tried the hair mask, this time I got the leave-in conditioning treatment. I love this. I love this because I can use the shampoo and conditioner, put this in after my shower while my hair's still wet, put it up in a bun, and it's gorgeous the next day. And I don't feel like I have to straighten it or blow dry it or even do anything at all to it. It's just so beautiful and healthy and shiny. So if you are interested in trying Function of Beauty, please go in the description box, click the link, and you'll get 20% off your first order with Function of Beauty using the code in the description box. And I heavily suggest that you order the peach scent. If you're thinking about doing this, order the peach scent. I don't know what it is about this scent. I think it reminds me of a scent from my youth, maybe. Like when I was in high school, maybe I had a certain conditioner or perfume or something that smelled like this, but it's fruity, but it's also kind of floral. It's light, it's clean. I love this scent. And when I get Bella a bath, and I mean, she's got this gorgeous, long, beautiful hair. I just cut it for the first time. She's 3 and it was down to her butt. But you really need to take care of your hair when it's that long because it can get damaged and broken and entangled. So I've been using these products on her. Her hair looks amazing. And I even caught Adam using them the other day in the shower. He was using the eucalyptus mint ones. So it seems that this whole household just loves Function of Beauty. Remember to check the link. Remember, definitely, if you're thinking about it, try the peach. It's amazing. And let's get started on the video. Okay, so on February 23rd, 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery was shot to death in the middle of the street while out jogging. Why did this happen? How did this happen? We're going to talk about this case, going over the recently released police report, and then we're going to talk about the issues that exist in this case and how it seems like the police report and the following investigation doesn't really give a completely accurate depiction of what happened that day. Ahmaud Arbery was a former high school football speedster, and he was known to go out running through the neighborhoods of southwest Brunswick, Georgia. On this day, he had decided to jog through some more suburban neighborhoods, which is when he was spotted by a man standing outside his house. This man is 64-year-old Gregory McMichael, and when he spotted Mr. Arbery running past him, he thought that Mr. Arbery looked like a person who had been suspected of being connected to what has been called a string of robberies in that area. So Greg called his son, 34-year-old Travis McMichael, and they do what you do every time you see somebody running by who appears to be suspicious. They grabbed some guns and jumped into their white pickup truck to follow Arbery and confront him. Now, according to Gregory McMichael, they just wanted to talk to Arbery. When Greg saw him running by, he thought he resembled someone caught on a security camera committing a recent burglary in the neighborhood. He says they got their guns from inside the house because they didn't know if Arbery was armed. When they got in the pickup truck with their guns, they pursued Arbery and they found him a little under a mile away. They pulled over, they got out of the truck, and at this point, Greg McMichaels alleged that Arbery began to violently attack his son Travis, and then the two men fought over the shotgun, at which point Travis McMichael fired two shots, killing Ahmaud Arbery. At this point, Gregory turned Arbery over onto his back to see if he was armed. However, the police report does not specify whether he was or was not armed. Spoiler alert, in my opinion, he wasn't armed, or the police report would have said he was. So even before going any further, this sounds pretty bad. But if it didn't go any further, if all we knew was what Greg and Travis McMichaels told us, we would have no other information about what actually happened besides the word of the men who were there, and one of them was dead. And as you know, dead men tell no tales. In this case, it turns out that things didn't go exactly the way that the McMichaels said they did. And we know this because we have a video that was taken, a video that shows the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery, a video that was leaked just recently, a few days ago. It seems that Travis and Gregory were not the only people chasing after Arbery that day. There was another man in what looks to be a separate vehicle, and he recorded this attack. This man is reported to be William Bryan, who was a neighbor of Travis's, and I am going to play the video for you now, but it does show an actual shooting. So I'll place a timestamp if you want to skip it, and then I'll just sum up what happened in the video at the end. The video shows that the McMichaels did not pull up to Mr. Arbery in their truck. They were lying in wait for him. We can clearly see the white truck sitting in the middle of the road, blocking the path of Mr. Arbery as he jogs down the road wearing a white t-shirt and shorts, clothes you would put on if you were running for the day, as he did every day. He wasn't running as if he just committed a crime. He wasn't running as if he was running away from someone. He was running like he was trying to stay in shape and enjoyed running, which he did. And when Mr. Arbery sees the truck blocking the road, he veers off the road a little bit, trying to avoid it, at which point Travis, who's standing outside of the car with a shotgun, approaches him. Now, Travis's father, Greg, is sitting in the bed of a truck, also with a gun, a handgun. And you can see Arbery and Travis fighting over the gun. A shot goes off, and the two disappear off the left side of the screen as Arbery appears to throw a punch. Greg McMichael, still in the bed of the truck, produces his handgun, but he doesn't shoot. A second shot is heard off screen, and then the two men come back into view, still clutching the shotgun, still wrestling over this shotgun. A third shot goes off just as Arbery lands a punch to Travis's head, and you can see blood appear on Ahmaud Arbery's t-shirt as he falls back, stumbles, and then falls face first into the street where he dies. Travis McMichael walks away with his shotgun as his father, Greg, gets out of the truck and runs toward Arbery with his handgun. Now, according to CNN, the first shot went through Mr. Arbery's right palm, consistent with him grabbing the gun barrel. The second shot is consistent with Travis's attempt to push the gun away from Arbery while Arbery was pulling it towards himself. The third shot also appears to have come from a struggle with the gun. After this tragedy, there were no arrests made. And one of the original prosecutors on this case, District Attorney George Barnhill, said he was not going to prosecute the men who had taken Mr. Arbery's life. He recused himself from the case only after the mother of the victim requested it due to his conflict of interest. Now, it seems like one of the men who was chasing Mr. Arbery that day, the older man, Travis's father, Greg McMichael, was a retired police officer, and George Barnhill's son is a prosecutorial investigator with the Brunswick Judicial Court, where McMichael worked before retiring. According to George Barnhill, he didn't feel there was a conflict of interest, but he agreed to step down, writing on April 2nd, "It appears their intent was to stop and hold this criminal suspect until law enforcement arrived. Under Georgia law, this is perfectly legal." He then proceeded to cite state code that says civilians can arrest someone if they have immediate knowledge of an offense or if a perpetrator is trying to flee after committing a felony. George Barnhill also believed that Travis McMichael was within his rights of self-defense in using deadly force to protect himself. Now, before Barnhill stepped down, Brunswick District Attorney Jackie Johnson also recused herself from the case because Greg McMichael had previously worked in her office as an investigator. District Attorney Tom Durden is now handling this case. I believe he is in the Atlanta jurisdiction, so he's in the Atlanta DA's office. And he has decided that the case will go to a grand jury, who will then decide if these two men should be brought up on charges. So much to talk about here. First of all, Georgia does have a citizen's arrest law. A lot of states do. And we'll get to that in a moment. We're going to talk about that quite a bit. Second of all, George Barnhill alleged that Mr. Arbery had a history of mental health records and prior convictions, which helped explain his aggressive nature and his possible thought pattern to attack an armed man. But Barnhill never tells us exactly what this history of mental health issues and patterns of attacking armed men are. Lastly, was Mr. Arbery the perpetrator of some crime, some offense, which would give the McMichaels legal justification to try and detain him until law enforcement arrived? Did they approve of it? Did they physically, with their own eyes, see this specific man committing these crimes? First, let's talk about this citizen's arrest law in Georgia. Atlanta civil rights attorney L. Chris Stewart does not believe this case fits the proper description of a citizen's arrest. The law requires that the offender must have committed a crime in the presence of another person, or that person must have immediate knowledge of a crime that has taken place by the perpetrator. Did the McMichaels have this immediate knowledge or firsthand information that Mr. Arbery was guilty of something? Travis and Greg McMichael told the police that they thought Mr. Arbery matched the description of someone caught on a security camera after a spate of break-ins and burglaries in the neighborhood. Yeah, the police have no reports of these break-ins. In fact, there are 0 reports involving burglaries or home invasions in the Scintilla Shores neighborhood where this happened between January 1st and the day of the shooting, February 23rd. There is one report from the area, but it was a vehicle break-in involving a 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol stolen on January 1st from a pickup truck outside 230 Satilla Drive, the residence of Travis McMichael. This same day, 2 911 calls were made. The first appears to have been made around 1:07. We aren't sure as of yet who made these calls, but it was a man, and he told the 911 operator that there was a black man running down the street, and he believed this man was responsible for some break-ins. He said, "There's been break-ins out here. There's a guy in a house right now. It's a house under construction." The 911 operator has to interrupt this caller to say, "I just need to know what he's doing wrong." Apparently, this call was interrupted when the man shouted, said the name Travis, and hung up. The second call came in at about 1:14 p.m., and I'll read from the transcripts from both of these calls. So the first call, this man, who we don't know who he is, but I have an idea of who I think he is, he says, "I'm out here at Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street." Again, he tells her the man is in a house that's under construction and he gives the address. The dispatcher responded, "And you said someone is breaking into it right now?" And this man responds, "No, it's all open. It's under construction." Then he interrupts himself to say that Arbery was leaving, stating, "And there he goes right now." So Arbery's running away because he's running on a jog to work out. So the dispatcher says, "Okay, what's he doing?" And the man responds, "He's running down the street." And she responds to him, "That's fine. I'll get the police out there. I just need to know what he's doing wrong. Was he just on the premises and not supposed to be?" The man responds something that isn't clear, and he goes on to say, "And he's been caught on camera a bunch at night. It's kind of an ongoing thing. The man building the house has got heart issues. I think he's not going to finish it." She responds, "Okay, that's fine. And you said he was a male in a black t-shirt?" The man responds, "White shirt, black guy, white t-shirt. He's done run into the neighborhood again." This is the transcript from the second call. A man, once again, we don't know who he is. He says to the 911 operator, "I'm out here at Satilla Shores and there's a black male running down the street." And she responds, "Where at Satilla Shores?" And he said, "I don't know what street we're on." He can then be heard yelling, "Stop, watch that, stop, damn it." Now, it's not explicitly stated anywhere, right? But I do have a feeling, allegedly, don't come for me, that the man on the phone calling the 911 was Greg McMichael. And it also feels like wherever he was standing when Arbery ran by, like he kind of moved and followed him as he was running, because then she asks him, "Where are you?" And he said, "I don't know what street I'm on." Now, the owner of this home that was being constructed and had nobody living in it, he claimed his surveillance camera had captured at least 4 short clips of a man who appeared to be Mr. Arbery coming onto his property on February 23rd. When CNN asked if they could see these videotapes, he said no. He's also chosen to remain anonymous because he claims to have been receiving death threats. Well, you're not anonymous then. If people know who you are and they're sending you death threats, like, people know who you are. He says the camera shows the man walking by the garage and down to a dock on the Little Satilla River. When he was asked if the camera showed this man stealing or committing any other crime, he said they showed him trespassing. He also said that the cameras had captured someone walking on the property at night on 3 or 4 separate occasions, and one time this person stole $2,500 worth of fishing tackle from a boat in his garage. But he couldn't identify the perpetrator in that video. He didn't file a police report, but he called the incident unnerving and unsettling. Unnerving and unsettling. Somebody stole over $2,000 of, material, fishing tackle, whatever, fishing equipment from your garage, but you don't report it to the police? Okay, now let's talk about Mr. Arbery's alleged criminal record and mental health problems. According to his father, his son did not have any mental health issues. He was indicted when he was 19 for bringing a gun to a high school basketball game, which was in 2013, as well as a 2018 arrest for shoplifting. The Arbery family attorney, Esley Merritt, has thoughts about using Arbery's past record to justify being shot in the street. He says, quote, "The reference to alleged conduct from high school or shoplifting is absurd and has nothing to do with his murder. The decision to rely on the citizen's arrest statute is really a recent invention. Prior to that, they just simply said it was self-defense. Ahmaud stopped by a house that was under construction and he looked through the window. We don't know if that happened or not, but even if it did happen, that is not a felony and would not involve the citizen's arrest statute." And I tend to agree with him. I live in a neighborhood that's pretty large. I don't know everyone who lives in it on different streets, and it's constantly being built in. It's one of those subdivisions, like they're always building new houses. And whenever I walk around the neighborhood with the kids, I always like to check out the new houses being built. I like to see what they're doing, how big it is inside, if it's kind of the same like outlay as my house. Do they have different things than I have? I like to see a house in the process of being built. It's interesting. How often do we get to see that? Now, of course, I wouldn't do that if there was people living there, but if no one was living there, what's the harm, really? Where's the felony? At the most, he was trespassing. At the least, he was just a person who was interested in cool things and was checking it out. And this string of home invasions and burglaries that the McMichaels are alleging happened, they can't be proven since they were never reported. The guy who owns the house can't prove that someone stole all of this stuff from his boat because he never reported it. And in order to make a citizen's arrest, you have to have seen it go down or have direct knowledge that it went down. All the McMichaels had knowledge of was a black guy running through their neighborhood, and even if they genuinely believed he was responsible for the break-ins, that doesn't constitute laying in wait for him with guns, because how is a person supposed to react? How's a person supposed to respond when two men with guns in a truck are blocking the road in front of you and shouting at you? Why do these men have any authority over Mr. Arbery or any one of us? And the way George Barnhill mentioned that Arbery had a pattern of attacking armed men, it makes me a little angry. Why should Arbery or anybody have to deal with being approached by armed men? And there's no record of him attacking police officers, who are really the only people who should be approaching you with guns. Does having a gun give a person authority over another person, and you need to just listen to them and obey because they have a gun? Is that how it works in Georgia? And it does seem a little convenient, a little more than convenient, that this first DA, Barnhill, tried to sweep this entire case under the rug. Greg McMichaels had just retired the past year from the Brunswick's DA's office, and before that, he was a police officer in Glynn County. It doesn't seem right to not even have a trial when an unarmed man is shot to death in the street after being chased down. George Barnhill told Glynn County Police that there was insufficient probable cause to even arrest Travis or his father, and there were no arrests made for 2.5 months until that video was leaked and began to go viral online. And this video was leaked. We have to keep that in mind. The police did not release this video. We don't know who released the video. Maybe the police did release the video, or maybe an attorney did. But either way, it wasn't like an official release. But when it came out, it obviously shows a really different set of circumstances. And for George Barnhill to say there's no probable cause to arrest Travis and Greg and at least put them on trial. Imagine sitting here, who you are, black, white, doesn't matter. And imagine your son or husband gets shot by two men while out jogging. And then you're told they wouldn't even be arrested due to lack of probable cause, insufficient evidence that anything was done wrong. The man is dead. There's no evidence that he did anything illegal. What kind of sufficient probable cause do you really need? So after the video gets posted online, the DA in Atlanta, who we talked about earlier, he announced he was taking the case to a grand jury, and they'd decide if the charges would be brought against the McMichaels. And even worse, this is the worst part of this case for me. I mean, someone's dead here, so that's horrible. But the family members that get left behind often have to deal not only with losing their son, their family member, their loved one, now they have to deal with no justice being brought against the people who did it. When Wanda Cooper, Arbery's mother, was initially notified of her son's death. The police came to her house and told her that her son was involved in a burglary, and there had been a confrontation with the homeowner during which her son was fatally shot. This is, in my opinion, allegedly, this is an outright lie. That didn't happen. I mean, the way the police are kind of building this narrative when they're talking to Wanda, it makes it seem like Mr. Arbery was on someone else's property trying to rob them, and then the homeowners came out. Arbery fought back and ended up dead. He was on a public road. He wasn't on anybody's property. He'd never been on the McMichaels property, as far as I know, unless they own that house, but I don't believe they do. He was on a public road, and he hadn't been on their property, and to our knowledge, had not taken anything from them at any time. He ran by, they followed him, chased him, one might say, and then he was shot to death. Now, the Georgia citizen arrest statute, it seems to have been put into place to allow retail establishments to apprehend someone they think may be shoplifting. This is why most states have this law, right? So that you, as a retail employee, manager, security guard, if you see someone shoplifting, you can put them in the security office and detain them until police arrive. In a situation like this with the McMichaels and Arbery, the only defense someone could technically have in Travis McMichael's position is if he saw Mr. Arbery committing a crime, and then they tried to apprehend and hold Mr. Arbery long enough for the police to show up. However, although you are technically allowed to detain someone if you think they've committed a crime, you cannot use excessive force. And I'd say just even the whole act of bringing guns to detain him was excessive force. And in my opinion, what we see here can even border on a false imprisonment situation. And that's not covered under the citizen arrest law. So essentially, you can't just see someone and be like, oh, I think I saw that guy on America's Most Wanted 2 years ago. He looks like him. I'm going to go hold a gun to his head and wait for the police to show up. You cannot do that. You have to have proof. You have to have evidence. You have to have probable cause, sufficient probable cause, right? Like Mr. Barnhill said, to believe that this person has committed a crime, mostly because you would have seen it go down. You can't just hold a gun at someone and not let them leave. That's false imprisonment. That's kidnapping, essentially. And if there was all these burglaries happening that they claim to have surveillance footage of, where's the proof? Why is the man who has this proof declining to put it out there to show that there was evidence Mr. Arbery was trespassing and stealing from his house? And in my opinion, even if they show those videos and there is evidence that Mr. Arbery was there or even stole something, all the McMichaels would have legally been allowed to do was follow him, get his location, notify law enforcement, and attempt to detain him, not point a gun at him as if it's the Wild West and you're Clint Eastwood and there's no rules, laws, or common human decency. This isn't a Western movie. This is real life. This is hopefully an advanced society. We don't do this to each other. We should not be doing this to each other. This was a complete unnecessary loss of life. We do have to keep in mind that the McMichaels were not the ones who claimed they were innocent due to this law. They actually claimed self-defense. It was George Barnhill who used this statute as his justification for not charging them, which would have been a great move if, it was their defense attorney, if George Barnhill was their defense attorney. But he's not their defense attorney. He wasn't their defense attorney. He's the district attorney, a role that puts you in a unique position to not take sides and to just fight for justice wherever the cards fall. That's what a district attorney is supposed to do. They're supposed to work with the police, find the criminals, and put the criminals on trial. And George Barnhill did not put the criminals on trial in this case. And can you really even use self-defense as a defense? Can you use self-defense as a defense? They parked in the middle of the road to cut him off. They sought him out. They were holding guns. He was presenting no threat. But yes, if I'm out running and some randos with guns block my path in their pickup truck and point one of these guns at me, I'm not going to act completely passive. I'm going to be pissed. I'm not sure I would have attacked the person holding the gun because personally I'm a scaredy cat, but I definitely would have wanted to, and I definitely would have been justified. We have rights in this country, and one of those rights means being able to walk through life or jog through life with a feeling of safety, not having to worry that random strangers are going to point a gun at you while you're outside your house. I put myself in Ahmaud Arbery's shoes. I like to run too. If I don't get a run in every day, I'm not right the rest of the day. I love to run. And if I was out running, just minding my own business, and these two guys pulled in the middle of the street and pointed guns at me, I would be afraid. And that sucks, that you would even have to be afraid. That we live in a place where there's this inequality. Now, as a woman, when I'm running, I bring pepper spray to defend myself in case something happens. But the only person I should be worried about attacking me in the middle of the road or holding a gun at me is like a person who means to do me harm. That's the only time. And if I see you with a gun and you're pointing it at me, and I'm brave enough, like Mr. Arbery was, to fight back, because if you mean me harm, I should be able to fight back. So in reality, if Mr. Arbery had lived through this, it is he who would have been able to use a self-defense in court. And the big question is obviously, was Ahmaud Arbery shot because he was black? Was his crime being a black man running through a neighborhood where some of its residents felt he didn't belong? Is this a race issue? Had there been some break-ins, and there is a video that shows a black man, but as soon as they saw this black man, they assumed the two were one and the same, that's not proof or evidence that someone has committed a crime, happening to have the same skin tone as a suspect. And I'm not the one who's always going to automatically jump and, say that he was shot because he was black. But I do feel, in this case, it plays a very big part in why his life was ended. If he was a white guy running through the neighborhood, they wouldn't have given him a second look, even if this alleged surveillance footage showed a person who was white on that property. So let's say there was a guy walking around this property at night, and it's being constructed and there's nobody there, and he's walking around and then stuff goes missing. And they see on the surveillance footage that he's a white guy. And then, they see a white guy running through the neighborhood. Even if it was a stranger, even if it was somebody they didn't recognize, they're not going to automatically be like, oh, a white guy in the neighborhood? That must be the same guy that has been, doing all these robberies. I'm not from the South, and, I'm not trying to talk about things that I don't understand. So I gave some friends a call, friends who do live in the South, some friends who are black. And I said, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this case, what's happening? Do you think it's race related? And every single one of these people, white and black, came back and said, yes, we do. There are a lot of thoughts and opinions in the South that run deep. And even though these thoughts and opinions may be expressed less often, they're still there, and they affect the behavior of the people who hold them. I mean, you still have people who say the South won the Civil War. You still have people who put Confederate flags on their cars and their houses and things. And this is not necessarily racist behavior, but it's what these things stand for, what the Confederate flag stood for and still does stand for many people today. And that is historically going back in time when the South was like, get out of here, North. We don't want to have anything to do with you. We want to keep our slaves. And so in order to keep our slaves, we're going to go to war with our own family members at times, friends, brothers, fighting on opposite sides of the Civil War. Slavery was such an important institution to the South for so long that it is hard to completely erase those feelings that have been passed down through generations in everyone. Now, not everybody in the South holds these beliefs, but there are people that do. And to me, whenever I look at a case like this, and it's a black man being shot by police or somebody else, I say, would this have happened if this person was white? And if I can look at that and say, no, I don't think it would have happened if this person was white, that is when I can safely say that this shooting was at least influenced by the fact that Mr. Arbery was black. So at this point, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has assigned 3 supervisory level agents to look into what's happened and why no charges have been filed. Protesters in Brunswick have been calling for the arrest of both Travis and Greg McMichael. This is a valid request. For several months, we only had the word of the McMichaels to understand what happened. But on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, that video leaked, which clearly shows, right, a different set of events and circumstances. And at that point, they should have been placed under arrest immediately just for lying about what happened. And then they should go to trial. Arresting them doesn't mean they're guilty necessarily. It means they were responsible for the death of another human being, and now they need to be judged by a jury of their peers to determine whether they did have probable cause to chase down this man and inevitably end his life. Greg McMichael should have remembered that he was no longer a police officer, and he had no place to be chasing after a man with a gun. It's not the job of citizens to take the law into their own hands. We have the police for that. They should have left it to the police, let them handle it, period. You don't get to be a vigilante running around, hopping in your pickup truck bed with a gun. That's so, to me, it's just like such a scene from a movie, them pulling up on this kid. and this guy's in the back of the truck with a gun. Like, such a scene from a movie. This isn't a movie. This is real life. This is 2020. Can't do that to people. The way they pursued this man, you would think that they just saw him murdering somebody. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. So Greg and Travis McMichael were actually arrested yesterday. So I'm recording this video on Friday. They were arrested yesterday. But understand that had this video not come out and had there not been public outrage after this video came out, this probably wouldn't have happened. And that's kind of what bothers me the most. Why does it take somebody like LeBron James to come out and make a statement about how truly messed up the situation is and get people making videos about it and sharing it on Twitter? Why does it take that much publicity to do the right thing? I mean, you had LeBron James, you had Joe Biden, and I mean, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden lately. I don't know if you guys know, but some allegations going on against him. And it makes me feel really uncomfortable. But not a huge fan of Joe Biden, but you got these people coming out, public figures, important people in the world, and saying this isn't right. And in Georgia, you got people working on this case. The man who was supposed to have prosecuted the case just kind of ignoring it, acting like it's not there, sticking their heads in the sand. And then finally, you get this guy, from Atlanta who says we got to do something about it. But I still want to know, would that guy, what is his name? The district attorney from Atlanta, I forget his name. Would he have made this big of a deal about it? Would he have done something if there hadn't been media coverage? And that's the question I want to leave you guys with. Let me know what you think about this. Please send your thoughts to Ahmaud's family, his mother and his father who've lost their son, who were looking forward to celebrating his 26th birthday with him, who just are completely, I wouldn't say shocked, but devastated that they've lost him. They don't have their little boy anymore. And I think his mom gave an interview and she said, I watched him come into this world and I watched him leave it. And no parent should ever have to do that. And no parent should ever have to do that. You don't want to outlive your kids. Currently, Greg and Travis McMichaels cannot be reached for a comment, so we don't really know what they're doing, but I'm sure their lawyers are telling them to keep it quiet, keep it zipped. The same thing that Letitia Stock's lawyer should have told her. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for listening to the sponsor at the beginning. Remember to check out Function of Beauty in the description box. If you haven't yet, check them out. Thank you so much to my Patreons. This has been a really tough time for me. A lot of stuff has been happening in my house this past week or so, and they've been very supportive and helpful to me. Thank you to all of you out there for watching. Thank you to all of you out there for giving me so much love in the comments. We do have to talk about something. I'll probably talk about it in the next video, which I'm also recording today. But I do want to talk about something that's important to the growth and the continuation of this channel and this healthy, happy environment of the community that we have here. So I'm going to probably address that in the next video. But otherwise, everything's been great. You guys have been great. You guys have been so sweet and kind. And when you tell me that, my videos make your day, or you were feeling really down and my videos helped, or you've been staying in touch with your family and your friends by watching my videos and sharing them and then talking about them together, it makes me so, so, so happy. Family is the most important thing to me. It always has been. It always will be. And just that human connection, it makes me happy that I'm helping with that. So thank you guys so much for everything. I will see you very, very soon. Stay kind, stay beautiful, stay safe, and stay home. I love you so much. Bye.